Hello, everyone. It's great to be here today with Anita Reese, who's the Executive Director of Pacifica Resource Center and is the Season of Sharing County Coordinator for San Mateo County. Hi, Anita.
Hi, Zeb. How are you?
I am okay. It is July 13th, and it has been a while since we have spoken. Many things have changed. So, Anita, San Mateo County is in the process of reopening. And so that means that indoor dining is open, fitness facilities are open. I'm not sure about hair salons. Are they open?
I don't think so, not yet. I think that might be
Okay.
the next phase.
But many businesses are now reopening. Are you still seeing a continued need for services? How are things? Just give us a little bit of an update.
Sure. Yeah, we're definitely still seeing folks who need help with their rent and help with other services. I think there's a couple of things that are still happening. One is that not everybody's able to go back to work, even though things have been reopening. Not all businesses are ready to reopen. They've still been figuring out how they can. And in some cases, they don't need as many staff as they had before. And so not everybody's going right back to work. So that's the first. The second, I think, is really more around the reality that even though folks may be going back to work, there has been a significant, there's been 3 months where folks haven't necessarily been working or had regular income, but they need to really do catch up. So they're still recovering from this last quarter, really. And so folks are still needing that kind of that ongoing support, whether it's with rental assistance or other assistance. And what we've seen a lot is that a lot of people, once they start working again, they're like, okay, I don't need your help anymore. And the reality is we know that, they're still recovering. Rarely are people able to just jump right back into like what it was 3 months ago. Like we are not back to normal. We're back to this sort of quasi-normal. And we're still trying to figure it all out. So, I mean, I would hope that even though folks are back at work, that they would still know that we're here to support them in any way that we can. We may not be able to provide ongoing rental assistance, but we can definitely provide other supports in other ways.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that I'd love to share is how when a donor donates to Season of Sharing, 15% of those funds goes to providing food assistance. And food assistance is one of the big services that you provide, isn't it, Anita? And that's also one of the big, I think, types of assistance that can be provided on an ongoing basis as a family gets back on their feet again. So at least maybe, the money that they can save on their grocery bill can be put towards, covering a sort of, past housing debt or, sort of plugging the hole that we found ourselves in after several months of not being able to work.
Oh, absolutely. I think that one of the things we forget are those kinds of resources like grocery resources that, we have an expense. Everybody needs to eat. So because you need to eat, you need to buy groceries. And if we can provide that support, then we want to do that because absolutely that frees up their income to use for other things. It saves them a couple $100s a month that can be used for a variety of things, not just rent.
I think that people might be hesitant to continue to get food assistance because seeing the long lines at food pickup locations, it might give the impression that there isn't enough food to go around. And so I think many people want to make sure that if they're back at work, that the food assistance that's available is going to people who, for example, might need it more.
That's definitely how some folks feel. And I would say to them that the resources are there to use and we definitely want to give them out. We don't want the food that we have to go to waste, and so we really want to make sure it goes out to people who need them. And in the event that maybe we in some cases those food distributions have run out of food, we can get more and we will get more if we know who to expect. And so we have great partners in you through Season of Sharing, through Second Harvest. All of those resources are there. We just want to make sure that people who need food get it. And, to have enough food for folks, we need to know that there's a need.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think that also it helps to understand that the long lines are often a result of the logistical challenges of social distancing during distribution and not an indication of a shortage of food.
During our food distributions, we're constantly making adjustments to make sure that we can serve people as quickly as possible and to make sure that everybody leaves with food. So absolutely you're right, the logistics can be very challenging.
So as we're already in mid-July, I wanted to draw our attention to a date on the calendar, July 28th. Now that is, until July 28th, there is an eviction moratorium in San Mateo County. What do you expect will happen after July 28th? Will the eviction moratorium end? And if so, are we then going to see an increased number of people potentially at risk of homelessness?
At this time, as of July 28th, the moratorium will be ending. That is also the date of a San Mateo County Board of Supervisors meeting. So the possibility of it extending could happen on the 28th. I just can't know that for sure at this time. But I think that the Board of Supervisors probably chose that date because they were meeting that day, so that they could extend it if they determined that it needed to be extended. The other is if it doesn't get extended, then there is the possibility that folks who owe rent and don't pay their August 1st rent could be evicted. So what's really important right now is for folks to really figure out how they can cover their August rent in case the moratorium doesn't happen. I would also encourage folks leading up to this, if they could pay their rent, to continue to pay some portion of the rent, even if they can't pay the whole thing, and do whatever it is that they're supposed to do in order to notify their property owners and property managers that they can't pay, so that they have that support for the moratorium. Because you don't just because you can't pay your rent doesn't mean you get the benefits of the moratorium. You do still have to notice your property owner, property manager that you're having trouble, so that they're aware that they won't be receiving it and that you're protected. So I think that leading up to July 28th, if folks can pay any portion of their rent, they should try to do that. They should be looking at ways to pay their August rent, and know that our community partners who work on Season of Sharing is available to provide support for August 1st if they need it.
And not just to provide rental support, but also to provide support around strategizing and coming up with a plan to make sure that we're all able to stand on our feet again once this is all over.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's part of what we're here for. We're not just here to, cover the cost of somebody's rent for a month. We really want to make sure that they're able to continue staying in their home and avoiding becoming homeless as a result of, this unprecedented period of time that nobody was expecting, nobody was planning for. We're just all continuing to adapt as we can. And this is one of those things. And it's scary. It's really scary to not pay your rent. It's really scary to be thinking that I owe a lot of money once, the moratorium is over. And those are the kinds of things that we can help talk people through for sure. And try to at least be a sounding board to come up with a plan so that folks don't feel so overwhelmed by the possibility of owing a lot of money when they're just, again, starting to get back on their feet.
Tell me a little bit about some of the difficult questions that people are facing as they decide whether or not to go back to work.
I think because San Mateo County is such a high cost county, many folks are, living with multiple generations in their households. And as a result, folks who maybe would have gone back to work can't go back to work for fear of bringing something home to their, elderly family members or other folks who are at risk, who have maybe some health impairments. And so it's a really, really challenging time because folks can't afford really to live on their own. And they can't isolate really in a home that has multiple family members in it or multiple generations in it. So, we've seen lots of households where, and in some cases they aren't even family members, but there's multiple families living in one household. And it's like, you're putting everybody at risk as a result. So it's a really, really difficult time right now for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Anita, for this very interesting and also somewhat sobering update. The pandemic continues. it's not over yet. Social distancing, mask wearing, still really important. And even as counties reopen or make decisions about reopening, economically, we are far from being back to business as usual. And so I just wanted to send a big shout out to all of our donors out there. Thank you so much for supporting the Bay Area families in San Mateo County and beyond, who need a little help while they all try to get back on their feet again. That is after all the goal. And thank you so much, Anita, for all of the work that you do every day. And thank you for being with us here today to update us on how things are in San Mateo County.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Seb.
Thank you. To help our neighbors in need, you can donate today. Click here. Thank you so much for your support.